Welcome in, everybody. My name is Mia. Thank you to Elevar for hosting Clickvoyant here to talk about testing on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and in fourth quarter in general. So, first of all, let's have a moment of honesty, and everyone understands that Black Friday is terrifying. There's millions of shoppers, there's millions of dollars at stake, and the one word that comes up in many engineering meetings is code freeze. We don't like to make changes. We don't like to run experiments. We just hang on for dear life, white knuckling it until January. But the truth is, a code freeze doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. And it means that you miss the single biggest opportunity to learn from your customers when the stakes and the traffic are at their highest. So today I'm going to show you how to test without wrecking your funnel, how to run safe tests and smart rollouts with guardrails, because doing nothing, honestly, it's the riskiest move of them all. So let's take a quick pulse check. Like, who here is testing during Q4? Go ahead. Don't be embarrassed. Just raise your hand if thumbs up if you're doing it. Thumbs down if you're like, nope, we lock it down all and hide until January, or like a meh, or like a little nervous face if you are in the middle. I know a lot of you are probably here because you want to and are maybe a little bit terrified and don't know how to approach it, or doesn't have a team or leadership that supports you. So we're just trying to understand where everybody is. And there's no judgment. Like, I've seen all three. The majority of people aren't testing at all, even during the rest of the year. And so that's the real. So if you're testing, awesome. I'm going to give you ways to test even safer. And if you're frozen and you don't know what to do, that's why we're here. So by the end of the day, you'll see that you can test during Black Friday, Cyber Monday without losing any sleep. All right, I love it. Let's move on. So here's the deal. Whether you're testing or not, the size of the opportunity is undeniable. And it's massive because, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's not just another marketing campaign. It's an entire year for some of you brands. And it's the Super Bowl of e-commerce. So one weekend where all this traffic and dollars come in, and if you're doing nothing, we're not really learning anything, are we? So let's zoom out and talk about this scale and some of these numbers. Last year, Shopify merchants sold $1.5 billion during just that weekend. And that's 76 million shoppers, with sales peaking at 4.6 million a minute. So imagine that. Every 60 seconds, almost $5 million in goods moves through a Shopify checkout. Now, that's not just busy. That's actually a data gold mine that you can start figuring out, like, why do they do that? And the beauty of that much traffic is that your tests possibly can get results faster. You may be able to hit statistical significance. Again, I don't want to talk about having to wait 14 days. We are talking about just running specific tests for the weekend to understand how people behave. And you might learn things in just a couple days, what you would maybe take from January to February to find out. So while most people are like open to the chaos, I can see that there's some opportunities to learn about your shoppers a little bit better. So if you're looking for clean answers, like why did that promo fail? Or where should the promo be placed? Or what should the hero say? Is it better to do a carousel versus a static hero? This is the weekend you'll actually get answers. And that's why I like to call Black Friday, Cyber Monday, big freaking conversion moment. It's loud, it's crazy, and it is the perfect time to learn. So, yes, $11.5 billion, 76 million shoppers. It's a big deal. But let's zoom in here for a second. Behind every transaction, visit, session, ROAS, it's a human being leaving behind digital fingerprints of what they actually want. And that behavioral data on your shopping experience is a gift. The word data comes from a Latin root meaning to give. So our customers are giving us this like click and swipe, and they're carting and they're uncarding, and all of their search is saying, here's what I care about, brands. Here's how I shop. Here's what's in my way. And what most brands do with this is just like slam them in the face with a spinny wheel or some kind of coupon or any other thing that we can just plug into our shop. And we interrupt their journey with those things that are begging for emails or shoving discounts without really fixing what is actually a broken user experience. Not paying attention to that data is not listening to your customers. That's just shouting what you want them to hear. So if you've ever been on a date with somebody who all they do is talk about themselves for 2 hours, this is effectively what you're doing. So safe testing during Black Friday, Cyber Monday is how we flip that script. It's how we use the gift of this behavioral data to actually research, hear customers, and understand what they want. And then hopefully use that insight to design experience that surprise and delight them and ultimately earn their loyalty. Because if you're not doing it, somebody else is. And those will be the brands that customers remember long after the holiday shopping season. So if customer data is truly a gift, this is the awkward moment. Most brands are terrible at opening it, using it. Instead of like using those data points to understand the signals to fix the friction in their shopping experience, they're defaulting instead to gimmicks and these plugins. And nowhere is that clearer than on checkout moments. Because when you look at the actual research, the numbers are pretty brutal. Baymard Institute analyzed hundreds of e-commerce checkout, and what they found should make every marketer in this room a little bit nervous. They had this massive review of all these checkout experience, and their verdict was 65% of checkout experiences are rated mediocre or worse. And that's not even counting the fact that around 70% of carts are abandoned before purchase. So, I mean, let's think about that for a second. Billions of dollars left on the table simply because the path to buy was confusing or clunky, or we try to get them to sign up for this, or we try to get them to buy that like $5 package protection. So what does that mean for us? It means that checkout is leaking revenue like crazy for 65% of you. And look around, like, are there 10 people in here, 6 of you, 7 of you potentially are leaking billions of dollars? And what it also means is that there's plenty of opportunity to plug the hole. And the trick is to knowing which fixes are safe to test during Black Friday and which are too risky. So we're going to cover some of that both. But keep that stat in your back pocket, okay? 65% are mediocre. I know that none of you showed up today to be like, I want to make a mediocre shopping experience. So now we know checkout's leaking revenue everywhere and the fixes aren't really rocket science, but most teams won't even attempt them during the holidays. And I get it. Like, nobody wants downtime on Black Friday. But when you freeze, you don't just stop code changes, you stop learning. You're going to miss out on millions of data points flowing through your funnel and the perfect chance to get stat sig results and insights that could power your growth, not just this season, but all next year. And meanwhile, your competitors are running safe tests and sprinting ahead of you. So yes, code freeze might prevent a crash, but it also guarantees that you're going to stand still while others who are testing are moving forward. So what is the difference between safe and not safe? If we know and you're bought in with me that the real question isn't should we test, the real question is what can we test, then this slide is for you. Because not all tests are created equal. Like, some are quick, reversible, and customer facing. That's perfect. Perfect for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Others are absolute nightmares if you do it wrong. So let's break it down with a simple metaphor. Think about your store layout, right? The front of the store, that's where you can play. Move promo signs, add urgency copy, tweak product placement, merchandising. The back of the store, that's sacred. Don't mess with cash registers. Don't rearrange the stockroom. Like in e-commerce, safe tests are things like promo placement, urgency messages, checkout nudges, small customer facing tweaks in like copy and design that don't change how your system processes money. Anything risky are things like shipping engine changes, full site redesigns, or trying to add some new payment vendor. That's just cobbling together some operations that if it goes wrong, it can go horribly wrong. So let's talk about the safe test first. The obvious place to test is with promotions. So what's the offer? Where do you show it? And how do you position that offer? Now, you might remember this infamous Target Black Friday video that went viral on TikTok. A shopper pulled back the Black Friday deal sign only to reveal the exact same price, exact same sale underneath. Same deal, different sticker. Same deal, different positioning. And yes, the internet roasted them for it. But what we're really trying to understand here is that timing, placement, positioning, not just in positioning in pixels, but positioning of like comparing it to other. This is the Black Friday deal, or this is the weekend deal, or this is the Cyber Monday deal. Those are all things that you can test on. So should the promotion be called out on a homepage? Where should the customer make this visible? Is it on the product page? Is it on the landing pages? And should the value be framed as like 20% off or 10 plus another 10% off? These are safe and low risk experiments, and they don't touch your payment engine, but they do impact whether customers even notice the deal. And Black Friday, Cyber Monday is the perfect moment to test them because you've got the volume to get the answers fast. You can actually learn what resonates and keep the insight long after Black Friday is over. All right. So you got the promotion positioned. You know exactly how to talk about it. The customer sees the deal. They're interested. But what happens next? Their brain immediately is going to jump to, I'll do it later, right? You have to be introducing some kind of urgency. And this is where a lot of brands can drop the ball. Like instead of giving clear answers, you're just going to leave it in your cart and then maybe I'll email you later. You know, doing something as simple as countdown timer to be like, your cart is safe for 10 minutes. Yeah, are you kidding me? We are trying to get rid of this inventory. You can't keep this out with like 30 million tabs open and come back to me in 7 hours. So you want to build confidence and you want to build urgency. So you want to try these simple micro copy things. For example, order in the next 3 hours to get it by Friday. Order by Tuesday for guaranteed holiday delivery. That's what helps to create this anxiety that something might not be there, and it's going to move them from interest to conversion. So now the shopper sees a deal, they believe in it, they're reassured, they have some urgency, they're moving on into the cart. Great. And here's the last and scariest mile. It's the checkout. So some of you are not changing any of the checkout. Some of you are. Just depends on how much dev resources you have, whether you're using products like Pretty Damn Quick. But checkout testing during Black Friday, Cyber Monday gives a lot of teams heartburn. But there are definitely ways that you can give them these little nudges to see what is the nudge that works. And what works for email isn't necessarily going to work for paid social media. And this is the thing that you need to find out. What is the motivation and the nudge that is going to work for the different audiences on my site during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so you could kill it the following year and potentially ship something awesome even in this season. So the good news is you don't have to overhaul like anything. The safe tests here are these little signals of trust, little signals of clarity that help people feel confident enough to hit that buy button. So let's take, for example, like these delivery dates. So again, we mentioned don't just say standard shipping, say arrives by Friday. And that removes doubt. Or look at things like expiring sales. Instead of blasting a giant countdown clock like a slot machine on some homepage, you can try a little subtle copy right in the checkout. Sale ends at midnight. It's those little nudges that action without panic. And sometimes, you think, oh, my buyer is going to be rationally making decisions about all this, that they're not. They're usually making decisions with their subconscious right here. So you don't really know from brand to brand how she's going to behave at this moment of truth when they're going to hit that purchase button. Other things you can consider extending the return window. All these like little nudges here that just reassure the person with quiet reminders that two items are left. Five other people have this in their cart. I mean, if you've done any TikTok shopping, or you can see that sometimes it gets a little noisy. TikTok shopping is changing how people behave. Like, you might look at this checkout page and go, it's really busy. There's a lot of stuff in here. But if you looked at a TikTok shopping cart, it's like really, really noisy with emojis and fire emojis. So all these little nudges, you just gotta find out what works for you. But again, because we're not doing any of the technology changes on the back end, we're just trying to figure out what the cues are to get them to press that buy button. It's fairly safe. So when you're doing $1 million a minute, like these tiny little nudges can be worth a fortune. Okay. So the scary piece. These are the experiments that will keep you up at night, and not in a good way. Payment platforms, don't do it. Don't add a new buy now, pay later provider during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If something breaks, you're not just losing revenue, you're using processing refunds for months. Number 2, shipping engines. Do not change how fulfillment calculates or displays. If it goes wrong, customers are abandoned, they'll complain, they'll return. Number 3, navigation. Don't touch any new mapping of the site. Hopefully, if you want to change your navigation and you think your navigation is crappy, you're improving it right now in September and potentially into October. Do that right now. Do not touch that. Because you don't want to get people who are maybe shopping on your site come back and then not know where to find anything. So don't launch any new site map or new site redesigns. And, anything that adds steps to the funnel. Don't try to add a quiz in front of something like that. Like, people are there, they're in hunting mode. They want to move straight to the thing that they are looking for. If you're trying to get in their way with this little mouse trap, then you're going to lose them. So keep it simple, save test only, and you're going to be great. So how do we roll out? This is the way to not lose sleep at night. Controlled rollouts of tests. Start with 10% of traffic. If that looks good, bump it to 50% of traffic. If that's still looking good, scale to 80% of traffic or all. And I'm not saying send 10% to the variant, because that makes math very tricky. It depends on the tools that you have. I'm not going to get into Bayesian statistics right now, but all you need to know is that to really fully understand how one sample did against another sample, it is a 50-50 split every time. What this is suggesting is you send the test to 10% of your audience and split that 10% 50-50. Then 50% of your audience, splitting them 50-50. And then everyone, if you want to, if it's looking good, it's looking safe. So if at any point your conversion tanks, you're going to flip it back, roll it back instantly. You're going to get the insights that you need. You're going to still protect the revenue, and you actually get to sleep at night. Like, if it goes horribly wrong, it only happened to 10% of the people, and I'm probably going to be okay. And that's where we're just taking these little slices to create little sample sizes in 50-50 splits, but little sample sizes to go into your test to get the information and the insights that you're looking for. All right. So now, how do you actually call test? So a lot of times when you're testing, and for those of you who are already doing it, it's not really black and white. It's actually kind of hard to win, especially if you're doing it for the first time, and especially if you're doing it for Black Friday the first time, because now the behavior in Black Friday is a little different than the rest of the year. So how do you actually call a test? This matrix is your cheat code. If it keeps you from arguing in circles about whether something worked or not, this is going to keep you and your team working harmoniously together. So you've got two layers of goals. You've got your primary goal and your secondary goal. The primary goal is the one that pays the bills. Like, okay, so checkout conversion or revenue per visitor. The secondary goal is going to be your supporting behavior, say add to cart or some engagement with a promotion. And if your primary goal wins, meaning it beats a control with significance, you can publish the variant. I don't care what the secondary says. Winner's a winner. If the primary is trending up and the secondary looks good too, you can also publish or at least keep running to lock in more confidence. If the primary is inconclusive, you don't shrug and go, I don't know what happened. But, which this is, by the way, the majority of tests, they're inconclusive. You go back to your data and analyze the behavior. Look at what users did differently in A versus B. Hopefully, if you're part of my Google Analytics 4 class, you implemented all your shopper behavior so that you can start to see A versus B. What did they do? What was the quality of the visit in A versus B? And that allows you to understand the context behind the inconclusiveness. Because usually it means that the test that you have created is not a great test, but the research that you do when you're looking in why this test was inconclusive or the segmentation of the people that were in A versus B, now you get to a better test design, and that's how you can win. So the mantra is primary first, secondary for context. You can win it, you can keep it running, you can analyze it or stop. And most of the time, you're going to find yourself in that analyze space. Now, let's talk about guardrails. Now, these are the safety nets that let you test boldly during Black Friday, Cyber Monday without wrecking your revenue. So a lot of these is more of a art than it is a science. The way that you will design your guardrails are how much your company makes per hour, what your average order value is, what your revenue per visitor is, what your conversion rate looks like, and what your volume looks like in terms of sessions. So these are some thought starters more than they are rules. So the first is revenue per visitor. If that drops more than 10% for 2 straight days, that's a signal something's off. So not just a blip, but a pattern, and it's time to roll back because you don't want to lose revenue per visitor more than 10% for more than a couple of days. You've got to go back, check your tests. Another one would be average order value. If your AOV dips more than 8% for a full day while conversion rate stays flat, that means you're probably moving units, but at the expense of potential margin. And that's not a win either. So that's a red flag. Third, checkout conversion. If conversion drops more than 5% for 48 hours, and we've got at least 500 completed checkouts per variant, and some of you are going to look at this like, I don't even have 500 checkouts. In a day, in a week, totally okay. Again, like I said, it's an art and a science, but say, okay, conversion rate drops more than 5% for 48 hours, and I have at least 500 completed checkouts per variant to back it up, we pull the plug. So these are some of the metrics that I use to decide when to pull the plug on a test idea. But one of my favorite guardrails is actually from Craig Sullivan, who calls it the New York Times test. And this really boils down to ethics. When you are testing things, ask yourself, would we be okay if the New York Times put this experiment on the front page tomorrow? And if the answer is no, you probably shouldn't be running that test. So the point of all this is that guardrails will keep you brave and safe. They're like the airbags of testing. So you can accelerate into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, knowing if something crashes that you get to walk away. Some tools out there have guardrails that will automatically shut it off. Some tools do not. I just highly encourage you to know what these guardrails are so that you can feel safe doing it, because not doing it is not optional. All right. And of course, we need to talk about the science. And this is where a lot of teams slip up. Like they'll run a test without any real hypothesis. You can plug in a tool, you can plug in a visually, you can plug in a shoplift, you could plug in any of these other tools that have these templates. And you're just like, oh, let's try this one. But a hypothesis isn't just like, I think this is going to be better. That's a guess. A hypothesis is structured. If we do X, then Y will happen because of Z. So, for example, in this real case study of one of my clients, this is a collections page. Really tough to sell bottles of something. God help you if you're one of those people. But if we see that quiz at the bottom, people who take that quiz convert higher than people who do not take the quiz. Lots of hypotheses out of there. Maybe it's because of the personalization element. Maybe it's like a prisoner's dilemma. We don't know, but we do know that they do take it. So if we move that promo placement higher on the page, then adds to cart and conversions will increase because shoppers will feel more like this is a personalized recommendation. That's testable. That's science. And by the way, it won. And that's how you make sure your test actually teaches you something. Because the goal isn't just to win, it's to learn something you can apply to every future campaign, to other pages, to other product detail pages, to paid media. Most of the learnings when you have a hypothesis statement, win or lose, has reverberations across the entire marketing funnel. So let's do this. You don't need 3 meetings in a spreadsheet to plan a test. Like, let's do this in under 2 minutes. This is the recipe. Start with a hypothesis. Define your primary KPI. Decide your rollout plan. Set your guardrails and pick your decision rules. Done. If we move the promo up on the page and force the quiz, more people will convert on the products because they will feel like they've got a personalized recommendation. My primary KPI will be checkouts and then revenue per visitor. My rollout plan is going to be, I'm going to do this 10% of the audience first and then 50% and then 80%. And then my guardrails are, if my conversion rate dips below 5%, I'm going to stop the test. If the result is 95% statistical significance is what science likes. And let's face it, you're running a business. So you might decide, hey, let me take that risk with 90%. Like, it's up to you. Like, it is, CRO is an art and a science. We are running a business to try to make money. And then here's where AI can come in with tools like ChatGPT can help you draft things like clean hypothesis statement. Like, it's excellent for suggesting your right KPIs and even estimate a sample size that you might need. You know what is the time to significance on a page that I get 100 visits an hour, 500 visits a day? Those are some things that you can also try to figure out, is this test even really worth running? And help calculate that. So hopefully you can brainstorm 2 or 3 safe variations to test, and using AI to help you science up your ideas is going to make you go really fast. So testing doesn't have to be complicated. If you have an answer for these 5-step recipes, you've got a valid experiment plan. Maybe it's a bad one, but it's valid. This is all you really need. All right, everybody, that went by really fast. So if you found value in anything I've said today, please do me this favor and shout out to me on LinkedIn. I love to hear from you. And I find that very helpful because feedback is my medicine, and I promise to pay it forward in some way. And if you're interested in learning more about all of this stuff, do join the community in Behavioral Science CRO Lab. It's very new, near and dear to my heart. There's already 120 people in it. That's where I teach the principles of behavioral research and psychology so the world can get smarter at testing. It's completely free, and it's full of stars in the industry who I deeply respect. And just the community is there for everybody to learn and test in public. So I hope you have a wonderful Black Friday, Cyber Monday, holiday season, and everybody goes to make it rain after this. Thank you again to Elevar, and I'm Mia from Clickvoyant. We'll see you next time.